Welcome back. The time is 10 minutes before the top of the hour, 10 Central African time, and you're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salailo Makwidiri. We're going to be wrapping up the show with a very, very concerning state of events. District 6, a once vibrant Cape Town community, is slowly being stripped of its physical history, brick by brick. Despite legal protections, historical remnants are being removed and sold for profit, threatening the memory of families forcefully removed during apartheid. And today on News and Views, we speak to Christian Julius, director of the District 6 Museum, about the fight to preserve this iconic heritage site and some of the challenges that they've been facing. Christian, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Salam Media. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning.
Thank you very much, and thanks for asking us to talk about this topic.
No, the pleasure's all ours. Reports are suggesting that, large parts of District 6 are being vandalized. They're essentially being stripped and sold piece by piece for profit. Can you give us a bit more context and insight to how widespread this issue is and who's responsible for it?
So I think last week, Thursday, a member of the public, Andrew Freeborn, he emailed the museum in I think, a bit of distress because there were images circulating on Facebook of people gathering curbstones, granite curbstones, and loading them onto a bakkie and sort of basically stealing the curbstones from the site of District 6. And in his desperation, because he had found this information on Facebook, he had contacted the museum to find out if we had known about it, and he had contacted the South African Heritage Resources Agency just to find out if there were any legal protections. And maybe just to answer sort of one of the questions that I think the public has, there are legal protections for the site, but they are very much focused on particular buildings in District 6, historic buildings. So in 2023, SADA declared 8 sites national heritage sites, and these are churches, mosques, schools that were very vital to the District 6 community. Many people remembered they are still standing, they are still being used by the District 6 community. And so those 8 sites were protected and declared. But what we find is that the broader sites, so if you passing District 6 today, you will still see that there are empty spaces where communities once lived. People once lived. And so those sites are not necessarily legally protected.
This is just, mind-boggling for me. And I'm just asking myself, why would someone go to, a protected site and just start looting it, or, a heritage site with the history that District 6 has, and just start picking it apart? Is it a matter of education, people not knowing and understanding how significant District 6 is?
I think that's one of the challenges. I think that, District 6s, they know what that site means. They know what it means to them. And so for them, it's sacred ground. It's holy ground. It's not something, it's a space that evokes a lot of trauma, a lot of pain. And so they don't go onto the site in order to see what they can take from it. They want to return home. I think the people who take things from the site are removed from that historical experience of forced removals. Either they did not experience that in their families or their communities. And so, when this member of the public brought this to attention, I actually recall that it's not the first time this has happened. Over many years, even in the late 80s, people have always been taking the granite curbstones because they're seen as valuable. But, there were the curbstones of streets that were familiar to people. The granite curbstones also made up the 7 steps of District 6. And so it's things that really hold a very special place in people's hearts. And so I think that it's been happening since the 1980s. People will come onto site, they will take things, and it's very difficult. We must also realize it is very difficult to just have people guarding the site as such. Like you were saying, part of what we hope for is that the spirit of place that was District 6, the memory of District 6, the knowledge and the education about it means that people respect the site. But unfortunately, that is not always the case.
It's very, very concerning. Just broadly, what kind of impact does this kind of erosion of physical history have on the community's collective memory and and I think most importantly, identity.
So I think, you know, when we speak about District 6, even for myself, I'm a younger generation. I don't have a living memory of District 6. And so there's a memory of the physical place of living there, you know, going to school there, shopping there, being a child there. It's a memory that it's a very personal thing for a community. Um, and I think what happened in the 1980s, when most of the area was physically demolished and you had this open site, that site became very symbolic. It became symbolic um, around the community that lived there. It was symbolic because it became a site of struggle, and that struggle was the struggle for restitution. So that site remained empty, and there was always this fight, and also a deep desire to return to District 6 through land restitution in a democracy. So the site has different meanings. It's where people grew up. It's a site, it represents our struggle against apartheid and forced removals. And post-democracy, it's meant to represent the spirit and the hope of restitution. So the site has many meanings for people. I don't think that, and in the spirit of people coming back, physically moving back, receiving a home in District 6, there is an understanding that the site is going to change. And so that empty space that you see, it will no longer be there. But we must also remember that is why that site was kept open. It was meant for restitution homes. So even though we lose the emptiness and what that symbolism means, that's okay, I think. I know that with the current restitution process, there is a very much an emphasis on keeping the historic street grid. So as they develop the new flats, even though they look so modern and they don't remind people of District 6 necessarily, but the street grid has remained the same. The street names are the same. And I think what is frustrating about somebody stealing things from the site is that those granite curbstones have been used in the restitution processes. They make up the new redeveloped streets. The cobbles are going to be kept with the next phases. So where cobbles exist, the redevelopment will do its best to keep the cobbles, because that is part of the physical fabric of District 6. And so I think that's also part of the frustration, is that when people strip things from the land, those things become sort of emblems of memory. And so now as they disappear, people do feel like they're reliving a very traumatic experience that happened to them in the past.
No, most definitely. What else needs to happen legally or maybe socially to try and safeguard District 6 remaining heritage?
I think the question around legal protections, I think that's a question for the South African Heritage Resources Agency to answer. While they've declared the 8 sites, national heritage sites, I speak under correction, there may be legal protections that are maybe general over the whole District 6 site. And so I think it's something that us as the museum and the public need to follow up with people on. I think the other aspect is that we need to consider the museum's role. You know, I always say that, you know, if the museum didn't exist, the memory of District 6 wouldn't disappear, because District 6 is such a strong part of Cape Town's identity and people who live there. And so I think what needs to happen is that, what I think maybe the gap is that a younger generation don't have the same sense of experience or connection with the site. And so our work as elders as such is to ensure that people know what that site is, what it means, and why it is sacred, and why it will always remain sacred.
And that's very, very important work that needs to be done. Finally, before I let you go, what can ordinary South Africans now do to try and support the work that you guys, are doing in preserving the history of District 6 and to help protect this very, very vital part of our history?
So I think, you know, the museum is an independent organization. We are not supported by the state. And so on that level, we are always fundraising, and, you know, ordinary South Africans can support us by helping us with fundraising, donating to the museum. But I think the bigger purpose of the museum, when it comes to ordinary South Africans, the story of District 6 is about a very particular community in Cape Town. But because the history of the area is it's so entrenched in the story of the city. So during the colonial period, the pre-colonial period, um, District 6 was a home for all. So
Mm,
everybody who was an immigrant who lived in the city, who went to go work up north in diamond mines or gold mines, everybody lived in the city. And I think for us, the work that the museum wants to share with all South Africans, and that we hope all South Africans take on board, is that it's what the Freedom Charter says: this land and the city belongs to all who live in it.
mm,
And that is the spirit of District 6. That's the spirit of Kanala, is that we are a community, no matter where we come from. And the work of keeping the memory of District 6 alive is perhaps the work of ensuring that that spirit of community and human rights remains with us and stays with us. Oh, sorry.
can you hear me
Sorry,
now?
I can hear you now. Sorry, if you can
Yes.
repeat that, please.
No, no worries at all. Unfortunately, we've come to the end of our conversation, but thank you so much for joining us. Really, really appreciate it. And I think, yeah, more needs to be done to educate people about the significance of District 6. And, it's really disheartening, to see a very important, vital part of our history being looted, being stripped to its pieces. And as you mentioned, very symbolic that it's a place that has been taken away, that even when it has been returned to its rightful owners, it's still being stripped away and taken away and broken down.
Mm,
So very, very concerning. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
okay. Thank you so
There you
much. Thank you.
go. Christian Julius, director of the District 6 Museum. I think painting a bleak kind of picture there, one that is concerning people that maybe, I don't know, is it an issue of education that people don't necessarily understand and know how important District 6 is, and the surrounding areas, the history and the value that that place has for South Africa's history is, it's one that you can't get anywhere else. And when you have people that are now stealing, that are it's really concerning. It's really concerning. And I think all of us as South Africans need to be very, very upset that we have that important part of our history being destroyed, for generations and generations to come, who might not even know and understand what it is, because of people that go there, steal, plunder, and destroy a place that has already gone through so much. Really concerning state of affairs. And with that, we've come to the end of today's show. Thank you so much for staying with us. It's been another incredible, incredible edition of News and Views. I'll be back with you again tomorrow for the Thursday edition of the show. Don't change your dial. Keep switching on to Salam Media. There's still a lot more stories that we'll be bringing you. If you missed any of our interviews, you can head over to our website, www.salammedia.com. Otherwise, head over to our various social media pages. All of the interviews have been played live, and you can be able to replay, watch, interact, share, like, and be part of the conversation. Coming up later today is Wednesday Nights with Inayat Wadi. There's a show that's coming on every Wednesday from 7 until 9, and he's going to be looking at the Freedom Flotilla, well, the Sumud Global Flotilla, and he'll be speaking to a lot of stakeholders. People are being part of this historic, maritime exhibition by citizens that is looking to make its way to international waters, make its way to Gaza, and to break this blockade that has been put in place by the Israeli occupying forces. Otherwise, from myself, Salailo Makwidiri, and the rest of the team, we'll be back with you again tomorrow morning from 8 right until 10 for the Thursday edition of News and Views. Shap, shap.